here we are, diving into the craziest Vancouver Canucks related story over the past 24 to 48 hours, essentially. Now, don't get me wrong, we still have other Vancouver Canucks related topics to dive into today. In particular, there is a wedding that we need to discuss, and whether or not participants at the wedding and people that were not at the wedding have anything to do with where the direction of this franchise may be heading down. But instead of talking about weddings, let's talk about Shane Wright. Wright, out of the Seattle Kraken, is a former 4th overall pick. A guy whom, as we have noted over the past few months, had declined in point production. He went from 44 points in 79 games as a 21-year-old center in Seattle to 27 points in 74 games the year after that. An unfortunate decline in points for a guy playing on a team that really doesn't have much to be proud of over the past 12 to 24 months or so. Wright is a young dude that was supposed to be 1st overall back in 2022, but famously slipped to number 4 after the Montreal Canadiens selected Slafkovsky, after the Devils selected Nemec, and after the Arizona Coyotes went with Logan Cooley instead. Today's Canucks-related Shane Wright update comes to us from what Ben Kuzman wrote about yesterday on The Province. Post Media has learned the Vancouver Canucks are Shane Wright's preferred destination because of what the club could become in a few years. Those who know him are convinced he might be the most misunderstood player in the NHL. That's the quote, just right out there for you. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of other things that we can talk about from this article, but that is the main idea. Shane Wright, reportedly, wants to come to the Canucks. And when I saw this at the beginning, he wants to come to Vancouver because of what the club could become in a few years, that speaks to me like, hey, Shane Wright is looking at the Canucks and their organization, and he's seeing the progression of a rebuild, and he potentially wants to be a part of that. It's kind of rare to see guys that are 22 years old already enter territory where we're talking about where it is they want to get traded to. I think, generally speaking, for players under the age of 24, you would rather see their NHL teams stick it out with them and just try to develop them into 23, 24, 25 even, potentially. And then maybe if things fall off the rails, you can trade them at that point, like Nils Höglander, for example. And Shane Wright being a 4th overall draft pick adds a lot more gravitas to his situation. So to hear that as early as 22 years old, he now wants to come to Vancouver, that's a pretty big deal. Now, there were some other quotes from the article itself. This will be linked in the description down below. It is the #1 article on The Province, and I have a feeling it's going to stay there for a number of days. This is a pretty big scoop after all. Vancouver apparently is a destination that Shane Wright wants to go to. Let's go out there and read the Kuzma update on Wright. Because Wright has a year remaining on his ELC at $886,000 before becoming an RFA. There is incentive to produce and contribute to the rebuild, and if he does, the Canucks can lock him up. Wright's book of work on his road to the NHL is also a good read because there's building block history. He was granted exceptional status at the age of 15 for the 2019-20 OHL season, just the 6th to get the honor on a list that includes John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad, and Connor McDavid, and he responded with 66 points in 58 games. Kuzma, don't go out there and forget that Sean Day also was given exceptional status. He was also the captain of Canada's U18 World Championship team. He also captained Canada's gold medal team at the 2023 World Junior Championship and was a point a game. Does he have the right NHL stuff? He is young and hungry. Is that enough to get a trade done here? Now, there was a very particular comment from Kuzma in this article that a lot of people were really interested in. It talks about how the Montreal Canadiens passed on Wright by taking Uri Slafkovsky 1st overall, which proved to be a prudent pick. Wright denied the death stare analogy, but admitted the draft snub put a chip on his shoulder. It's still there, and that's significant because he is an alpha male who is assertive and confident. Oh boy, now the scoop may be correct. Say what you want about the legitimacy of the information presented here that Shane Wright wants to come to Vancouver, but when you're reading an article from a Vancouver writer that talks about how this guy is an alpha male, oh boy. This quote got flamed on social media for a good reason. It's just super bizarre language to be hearing Ben Kuzma go out there and write about. But I digress. That's not really important here. Let's go out there and read some responses to the Shane Wright update. Gino Hard posted this on Twitter. It got 200,000 views. And Sap went out there and quote tweeted this. I feel like people talking about this Wright thing are missing the point. Is Vancouver worse than Seattle? Yeah. Therefore, Wright will likely get more ice time. But the quote also mentions that he wants to come to Vancouver because of where the rebuild is going. He also sees this team being good when he's 26, 27 and wants to be a part of it. It works for both parties. The only question is, what's the cost for Shane Wright? Now, as we made a video about earlier last week, there have been conversations between the Vancouver Canucks and the Seattle Kraken in response to the Shane Wright discourse. It's already been reported that the Kraken supposedly want one of Tom Willander or Zeev Buium, which is a pretty steep price for a guy who is on the decline, technically speaking. So right now, I question whether or not this report coming out has the potential to leverage things in Vancouver's favor should these trade talks continue in the ways that they have been going. Thomas Drance then shared some opinions on the Shane Wright discourse here on The Athletic. Would it make sense for the Canucks to go after Shane Wright? Thomas Drance says, I'm a big Shane Wright fan, and I see him as a player with a Sam Bennett-type glow-up potential profile. I think he has the pace, skill, and tenacity to be an elite second-line center on a great team, but I don't see him as having face-of-the-franchise-level offensive upside at any point in his career. In my mind, what the Canucks need is the latter, and what Wright offers is the former, so I don't personally see a natural fit. Essentially, Drance is saying that Shane Wright may not actually max out as what the Canucks need, and therefore it's probably more of a pass rather than, hey, they should be chomping at the bit to get this guy. A reply goes out there and asks, hey, by inference, Malhotra doesn't have this potential either? What's the downside in acquiring this type of player now, provided the asking price isn't ridiculous, and then trying to draft a high-end center in 2027? Drance says the asking price will be extremely high. And that does align with the Zeev Buium, Tom Willander discussion from last week. Hey, Patrick Allvin and his scouting expertise is going over to Seattle, and he's telling all those Kraken folks, hey, Buium or Willander? It's got to be one of those guys. Abby, Hockey2L, said, Seattle must be furious that this Shane Wright discourse has actually leaked. He doesn't have much leverage now. If he refuses to sign long-term with his new team, he could be an offer sheet candidate soon. What team would want to trade for him and then worry about an offer sheet within a year or two? The only teams that actually have a good incentive to trade for Shane Wright now are the Vancouver Canucks, and that's it. Because apparently knowing that this guy wants to go to Vancouver is enough to dismiss the idea of any other team taking the risk to trade for him, and it opens the door for another team to be like, hey, we kind of need a young center. We kind of need a middle six guy. How about we sign Shane Wright to a gigantic offer sheet, we use him, then we flip him, and then, I don't know, if he's good enough to help our team in the playoffs, maybe that actually works out. Who really knows? There are some conversations to have about Shane Wright and the potential. It all depends on the price. So, with all that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section. How do you feel about these Shane Wright conversations? How he wants to come over to Vancouver? How apparently this is a team that he could see himself fitting on and winning with in the long term. How does this feel in your opinion? What are your thoughts on a trade price that's appropriate? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.